Thanks for tuning in to Unbreakable with Chris Chamasiros. I talk about politics, sports, and entertainment to keep you well rounded what's going on around the world. If you don't like hearing the truth, definitely don't tune into this channel. So let's get started today. So Bernie Sanders goes on the Joe Rogan show. I cannot stand Bernie Sanders, the socialist, the communist, the weasel, the worm who's never worked a day in his life. Let's jump into the interview and go from there.
What the government should or should not do.
Hold on. Do. You know, the guy that takes more money from special interest groups than any politician in all of Congress and the Senate, but he's for the people, Barney.
But I don't think we can allow a handful of people with incredible wealth to control both parties.
Well,
Here he goes. Here, right off the bat, right? He gets more money from special interest groups than anybody. But he doesn't, for some reason, he doesn't consider what he does wealthy. He's the good one. And everybody else that really makes their money, like President Trump, like Elon Musk, they're the bad ones, according to, I cannot, this is everything if you have a son that you don't want your son to be. A coward, a worm, a weasel, a liar, refuses to work. He's a piece of garbage.
dangerous.
It is.
It's very dangerous, and I mean, no one who the founding fathers of this country never saw that coming.
That's
you
right.
know, they made this incredible system of checks and balances.
You got it.
But who could have ever possibly saw that coming?
And what I worry about Trump is...
Here we go.
You're right. You know, I read it is a...
I worry about Trump because Trump is putting America first, and he's not a socialist piece of garbage like Bernie, bro. You know, Bernie, go move to Cuba, move to China. You're a piece of garbage. His whole stick that he's for the working man and the poor, it's all a bunch of garbage. He's a millionaire. He's never worked a day in his life. Look at the tape look at the video of RFK confronting him. It's like RFK's like, hold on a minute. You get more money from special interest groups and all these corporations than any politician. He's just a fraud. This guy's a fraud.
Astounding back in the 1780s when these guys wrote the Constitution, how perceptive they were.
Amazing.
Yeah. I mean, they
Their
said...
understanding of
No, he's like, he's really like Rogan's trying to say it's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing, and he's like, yeah, but you know, his forefathers didn't fight for the country. They did nothing. He's a coward. Bernie's a coward. That's what he is. He's a worm.
human desires and the power and all
Exactly.
the corruption.
Exactly.
Pretty amazing.
And they wrote that having just fought a war and won a war against the most powerful despot on earth, the King
Right.
of England, right?
Right.
Let's look at this.
And I think in the back of their minds was saying, all right, we just beat the King of England, absolute power. How do you create a new country which has checks and balances so that nobody ever has that power
Right.
again? And I got to say, I mean, one of the things, and there was a lot of arguments about Trump, that worries me very, very much is this movement toward authoritarianism and going after media, suing media, taking away the authority.
He doesn't have a problem with the media when they lie for him and Democrats. And he's not worried about Joe Biden and his junkie son selling the country out to China, having an open border. Come on. He's not worried about any of that. He was worried about President Trump, somebody who's done more for America in 4 months than this loser, lowlife dirtbag has done. He's been a politician for 50 years, and President Trump has done more for America in 4 months than this lowlife's done in 50 years.
That Congress has,
When you say suing media, are you talking about the CBS lawsuit?
among other things. He has,
Right, but don't you think there's a real issue with what they did?
no. In this
You
sense,
don't
look,
think that there's a real issue
It may-
in
look-
editing conversations to give
Right.
someone an answer
Joe,
that's
I've been
different
on-
than what they really answered?
Joe, I've been on 8 zillion shows, right,
Right.
in my life.
Okay.
Okay. Now, should I sue you if you ask me some stupid question that I don't like, right? You got, or that you do something? Do I have a right? Should I sue you?
Yeah, but that's not what he's getting.
Well, he has
Exactly.
sued. He has sued ABC.
Mm-hmm.
He has sued Meta. He is suing the Des Moines Register because of a poll that came out during the campaign.
Really, Bernie? Well, you can't just say that people are rapists, Bernie. You know? You can't just say that, Bernie. You should know that. You can't just call Trump a racist. That's why Trump was suing them now. You can't make up stories that Trump's sons are corrupt and they're stealing from America, Bernie. But I cannot stand this man.
that he didn't like. All right. He is suing CBS for this Kamala Harris interview. So do I think how many? I cannot tell you the number of stories done about me that were not good stories,
Right.
that were dishonest stories. That's what a free press is about. You don't like it, you got to live with it. All right. You do something. I'm not going to sue you, Joe.
Right, but it's not that simple, right? Like, let's not talk about Trump, but let's talk about another candidate. Let's just imagine there's someone on the right and someone on the left, and there's a concerted effort to promote this person that's on the right. And so the polls are rigged, or these are funded polls that make it look like this person on the right is winning by a substantial margin, and what this does is decreases the motivation that people have to come out and vote against them.
That's happening.
So it's fake.
By the way, that happens right now.
It is happening right now, and I think, is that part of what he's suing them about?
No, but doesn't look.
But isn't that what he's suing them about?
Well, he's suing ABC for one thing.
It doesn't matter. It don't matter. I hate. Oh man.
But with the Des Moines Register about the poll,
Yeah, I know the pollster there.
was the poll incorrect?
Yeah, the poll was wrong. So what? Guess
Right.
what?
But what did they know it was incorrect
No.
when they published it?
Okay.
No, they published what they thought was an accurate poll. But that pollster, by the way, what's the name? Seltzer polls.
I should just state for the record, I don't know this lawsuit, but
what it was about.
But I am aware that in talking to people that understand polls, that some of these are
He has no listening skills, Bernie. None. Zero. Because he doesn't care about people. He doesn't want to listen to what Rogan has to say at all.
politically.
All right, but the answer is yes and no. There are polls right now doing exactly what you say.
Right.
I could doctor a poll. I could talk to more conservative, more progressive people, get the results that I kind of want, right?
And they do it to motivate people or demotivate people to vote,
that's
and
right.
it's effective.
It has an impact. All right. On the other hand, this particular pollster, that's the Des Moines Register, not a huge newspaper. I bumped into them because when you're running Democratic primaries, Iowa is a big deal. They are a very, very respected pollster. Okay, they don't doctor polls. So they made a mistake on a poll. It turns out they had Trump doing worse than he ended up doing. Guess what? Pollsters, honest pollsters, make mistakes too.
But what is the basis of his law?
He can honestly sit there and try to minimalize and make all these liberal news stations and try to make it sound like they're fair and it was just an error and they're not doing anything wrong. That's what Bernie Sanders wants you to believe, that all these liberal news stations that are losing viewers by the millions every day, their ratings are in the toilet bowl, and Bernie's sitting there making it sound like it's just an innocent mistake that they're doing. He's just so full of shit, this guy.
Lawsuit, like, what is he saying in the lawsuit?
I think he is saying that gave energy to his opponents and that it was. He's
like
saying,
we talked about.
like you talked about, but I don't believe that's the case. There are honest pollsters who make mistakes.
But what about the other the other lawsuit with the conversation that they had with Kamala Harris, where they edited the answers that she had to make it look more precise?
60 Minutes, they were suing 60 Minutes.
Yes.
Is, to my mind, historically, they've been around for a very long time. You know, they're not infallible, but I think you look at most objective people will say 60 Minutes has a sterling reputation for investigative journalism. Are they wrong?
But that's not investigative journalism if you change someone's answers. If you ask her a question and she comes with a rambling answer that doesn't make sense and you edit that out and insert another answer to a different question that seems more cogent.
All right, Joe, then you're walking down, you're walking down a dangerous path. Suing media has the impact of intimidating media. All right, if somebody sues you.
So you're intimidating them to have professionalism and have integrity and just play the actual interview that was made and not redo it with AI or editing. Somehow that is a dangerous road. You know, he's just a communist piece of garbage. He's a propaganda, communist, Russian, Chinese propagandist. That's what they do. That's how they control people. That's how they control the media. This whole thing that Bernie's for the average, if you believe that Bernie Sanders is for the working class or the below poverty line, you need to have your head examined. He's a communist piece of garbage.
All right, let me finish. All right.
Okay.
Somebody sues you. You know, why not you?
Right.
You could be sued tomorrow, right? Because you are doing this. You're too sympathetic to this.
Right.
And Joe, you did that. And they have a big law firm behind you. And you're going to have to spend zillions of dollars defending yourself. You know what? Next time you do an interview, you say, maybe I'm not going to go in that area. Right?
No, but it's not that. It's editing things to make this deceptive editing.
Joe,
So in deceptive editing,
I don't
you
know,
give people a different perception of who this candidate is than reality.
All right, but you got to explain.
But that's not objective journalism.
I know, but
that's campaigning for that person.
Right, but
Hey, Bernie, shut up already. Stop trying to be pushy and overtalk Joe to get your point across because you don't like hearing the truth. And that's what's going on here.
Would you agree with that?
I don't have those details. I don't know that I agree with your analysis of it. I don't
Typical
know enough.
Democrat.
I think that's universally accepted that that's what they did.
Then you got to tell me why he is suing ABC. Why he's suing Meta.
Let's just talk about the 60 Minutes one
but
first.
but it's not just
we could go to ABC, but I'm not aware of that one either.
George Stephanopoulos said something that he didn't like. But the point...
This is the moment that Rogan knows, because Rogan was a Bernie guy forever till he finally caught on. Right there, you see it in Rogan's face where Rogan realizes, wow, I've been totally wrong about this piece of garbage the whole time. You just saw it right there.
What did Stephanopoulos say?
I can't remember. It was I honestly don't remember. But
well, I think what he was saying was factually incorrect about the results of one of Trump's trials.
All right. Guess what? If I were to sue everybody who said things that were factually incorrect about me, I'd be suing people zillions of times. But Joe, what you're saying is, look, does media get it wrong sometimes?
Let me quiet
Absolutely.
you down, Joe.
Should you have the most powerful person in America suing media? What is the impact of that? The impact is clearly intimidation. He wants to defund public broadcasting, NPR. Why is that? Well, because they also would run critical stories of him. This is part, in my view, without getting into any one case, it's part of it.
That's not, you can't slander people. You can't do what you did to Trump. You can't call somebody a rapist and they didn't do it and think you're just going to walk away. You can't say that his son was stealing money. It's not an opinion you're trying to make things factual and they're just lies. You could be sued for that. You could be held liable for just lying about somebody. That's why President Trump is suing. He's just so full of garbage, Bernie Sanders.
A pattern that says, hey, I got the power. Don't you criticize me. You criticize me,
that's what
I'm
it
going to
is,
sue
Bernie.
you. So it's not whether this show was right or wrong. There are shows every day they get it wrong. It's whether you respect you and other media people to do the best that you can. And if I don't like what you're doing, I'll go someplace else. But I don't like presidents suing media, and then it's, threatening to impeach judges who rule against you. Really? Is that a concern? I think it's a concern.
I agree. That's a concern. Well, Mike.
Really, Bernie? So Judge Juan Merchan, you call what they did to Trump justice? You piece of garbage, you freedom fighter for the little guy? You watch that trial, you call that justice? That kangaroo court, Bernie? Drop Bernie off in China, drop him off in Russia. You know what? Better yet, make him sign up for the military and let that coward fight and see how that goes. He's a cockroach.
Concern is when you have media organizations that are purported to be objective, and then they say things that are defamatory and factually incorrect, and they should know that before they say it. What other course does a person have other than a lawsuit? And isn't it important that you shine the light on what is a political bias
Then the way
where from an organization that you would hope would be objective?
Needless to say, I get attacked all the time by right-wing media, right? Every day.
Needless to say.
Needless to say, all right. I don't sue them. So you expose
Right, but they
them.
don't say.
But how could you sue them, Bernie? You're a socialist. You take more money from special interest groups than anybody. That's the truth. You can't sue because it's not a lie.
He's the president of the United
But
States.
do they say things factually incorrect,
Right, then
that
he
are
can get up there.
defamatory and slanderous?
If there's anybody in the world
Exactly. He
who knows how
won't
to use a
answer
microphone,
that.
his name is Donald Trump. And Donald
Great question, Joe. How come Bernie doesn't answer any of Joe's questions? How come, Bernie?
Trump get up. You saw that program on CBS the other day? It was crap. It was wrong. And let me tell you why
Right.
it was wrong.
But then they do it again and again and again.
Then you take 'em
but
on,
The,
and
the
you keep-
problem is the more people do stuff like that, if you don't have any consequences to what you're doing, you're going to continue that path. And the most people only see that. They're not like, if you're a left-wing leaning media organization and you print something that's factually incorrect, or you say something on television that's factually incorrect, your viewers who are left-leaning are most likely not going to see Trump's rebuttal in some speech that he does in the middle of Pennsylvania.
But that's another problem, and that is, our media is becoming very divided.
Exactly.
Okay. But all I would say is...
So you don't think that lawsuits against that are valid?
I don't think that it is appropriate for the President of the United States to be, in my view, intimidating media. Again, I get attacked. I'll be attacked tomorrow for probably things I've said on the show. I'll get attacked. Then if I want to respond, I respond. I have not a president's bullet. I have a bullet. I say, you see that thing on Fox? They're wrong. And I've done that. But Joe, you got to take it another way. I'll give you an example about CBS. We talked about corporate power. The owners of CBS is owned by Paramount, big multimedia corporation, right?
Sure.
Paramount wants to sell, wants to be sold to, what is it, Blue Sky? Does that ring a bell?
Blue Sky's that social media app.
No, and it's another one. I'm sorry. It's I always forget the name of it. Skydance. Thanks. Skydance is a large media corporation that Paramount wants to have buy.
Okay.
To get this merger, huge merger, they have to go, guess what? To the federal government. All right? So you are the head of CBS. You want to sell the company to Skydance for many, many billions. Do you remember what was the sale?
I don't see.
It's billions of dollars, to be sure. And you got to go to the federal government. And the president sues you. What do you think you're going to do? You're going to settle the lawsuit, give him millions of dollars, and get your merger approved. All right. So look,
I see a problem in that.
All right, and
sure.
I see where you're coming from. We want honesty in media.
Joe, don't let him manipulate you. Like, you're trying to play fair, and you know he's lying through his teeth. That's not what President Trump is doing, and you know that, Joe.
But all I can tell you is that the way to respond to the lies, which take place every day, is to take them on, not to intimidate media. You know, we talked about the Constitution. What's the First Amendment? Is freedom of speech, right?
Right.
You're right. You're
Yes.
sitting here. You disagree with me. God bless you. Say what the hell you want to
Right.
say. All right. I'll never take that away from you.
Right.
And I'm not going to threaten you with a lawsuit. But if you start suing me, hey, Joe Rogan said this. No. Joe Rogan has this. We found out about Joe Rogan. I'm going to sue Joe Rogan for $100 million. Joe may not talk about those issues in the future. Okay? That's what I'm saying, Joe.
I agree with you. And listen, I'm not a fan of lawsuits either, which is why I never sued CNN.
I've never done.
CNN lied about me over and over and over again. And they said I was taking horse dewormer, and they altered the color of my face on television to make me look green.
I could testify, yay, green.
I didn't sue them.
Joe, I mean, I know you're trying to be somewhat civil, but that's not what President Trump is doing at all, and you know it. And you know that Bernie's lying through his teeth. What they do to President Trump is nowhere near what Bernie is trying to make it like, oh, it was just an innocent mistake. Give me a friggin' break, Bernie. It's pure slander, 24 Russian collusion, just a blatant lie. It's been proven by the CIA, just a lie. That was totally made up by everybody. Everybody knows it's a lie. President Trump can sue every news network just for that alone.
I'm not a fan of, my response to them was just speak out and say how ridiculous
That's
it was.
what I'm
what they
saying.
were
Look,
doing.
Joe, anybody in the public eye, you're in the public eye, I'm in the public eye. You're going to get attacked every day, right?
Yes.
All right. That's what, you're in the public eye. You don't want to be in the public eye, put down the microphone.
Agreed.
Play pool, whatever you want.
No, I agree with you.
All right. So, I mean, I just worry.
But I also agree that CBS shouldn't be altering a presidential candidate's interview.
I agree too. I mean, I don't know enough about it, so I'm not going to say what isn't.
Okay.
All I know is that 60 Minutes has...
The guy that knows everything, Bernie knows everything, but all of a sudden he doesn't know anything about that. Anytime Democrats are wrong, which is 98% of the time, he doesn't ever know anything. The smartest man alive doesn't know anything.
Is a well-respected program. Do they make mistakes? I'm
But that's
sure
not
they
a
do.
mistake.
All right, I don't know enough about it, so I
Okay.
can't.
I
Yeah, of
understand.
course, of course. I got to get off the
All
topic.
right, what else you got for me? I should get a plane and get out of here.
You probably should. I mean, I appreciate your positions on
Yeah, you probably should. I don't know if that's a dig because you don't like him or because he's in Texas, and you know how Texans feel about this low life.
all these different things.
And I
think-
appreciate, by the way, one of the, we talked about media and the bifurcation of media, right-wing people talk to right-wing people, left-wing people talk to left-wing people. I happen to think that the development of podcasts is a really positive step. Because I can tell you, I've been on a million TV shows. All right, Bernie, literally you got 7 seconds to explain the issue. Well, I can't explain
It's
it.
impossible.
Nobody can.
Yeah.
And the fact that you give people a couple of hours to sit here and have a good discussion and be a good host and trade ideas, I think that improves life in America and helps people think about things. So thank you for what you're doing.
I think Rogan just realized the entire time that he was supporting Bernie for years, he just realized what a lying, no good piece of shit he really is. With that being said, thanks for tuning in to Unbreakable with Chris Chamasiros.